What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Fix Setup Weekly. We've got week number 9, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to drive the Arca car at Charlotte and see fixed at Nashville Fairgrounds. Last week was a bit of an adventure, only covering the Arca series at Southern National Motorsports Park, and I don't know how it went for you. I did one of those races on my alt account, and it was actually kind of underwhelming. It wasn't even all that chaotic. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't even fun. So I don't know. Maybe your experience was better in the Arca car, but I just did not think it was all that good. And I ended up doing one B-fixed race at Watkins Glen. I did it on stream, and it was a blast. I started towards the back. There was a gigantic wreck going up the S's. I'll play some of that footage for you right now.
Everybody
on your right,
pushing someone in 3.
You're on the left, 3 wide, right side, still there.
These stinking Xfinity drivers. Oh, God.
Oh,
right.
no. Oh, my God.
Clear on the right. Car on your right. Clear.
Oh, my God.
Cut the course.
And getting through all that, I think I came home like 9th or 10th, something like that. But I was really happy with the way B-Fix drove. The car felt really nice, a lot better than the truck. I didn't touch the Cup car at all. I didn't really hear a whole lot of complimentary stuff about it either. But, you know, how'd Watkins Glen go for you? Did you enjoy it? If you jumped into it, did you have some fun? Let me know down in the comments section below. So this week we head to 1.5 miles with the Arca car, and I like it. I actually do like it quite a bit. I think Arca at Charlotte is a really good combination. And then we got C fixed at Nashville Fairgrounds, the short track. It's a strange driving combination. We'll get into that a little bit later in the video, but I'm going to break both of those series down for you, give you a little bit of a guide around the track in each car or truck, depending on which section we're in, and show you a hot lap at each one of those venues as well. Some competitive lap times I think that'll hold up well throughout the week. Give you some tips, some tricks, and some overall feedback on what I, experiencing from behind the wheel myself and what I think you can do this week to better your results. So let's dive into it. Now, before we get into today's video, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsor, Advanced GG. You see the beautiful brand new Advanced GG Porsche 911 RSR. Just raced it tonight in my league race at Miami Roval. Had a wonderful time with that. But I am so appreciative for the support shown by Advanced GG. They're the makers of Focus, the best open label gaming supplement on the market. I'll leave a link and discount code down in the description below. They love the sim racing community, and I just love talking about them. They make great products. I use it every day, and I recommend that you check it out. If you want to support them, support the channel, make sure you use code HOUSE at checkout. Again, big thanks to Advanced GG. Now let's get into this week's guide. Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Arca race this week. I had a feeling coming into this that it was going to be a plow box, and I was not disappointed. It's a plow box. It's a little bit free on cold tires, and if you touch the apron in the turns, it'll definitely try to loop you around. But other than that, he's a bit on the snug side. So what that means is you go into your garage here, and you go to your chassis tab, and you put that steering ratio up to 16:1. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to save that right front tire, that's what you're going to do. Now, I've done a little bit of testing on this. There is a case that could be made for 14:1 if you're really smooth. You could try 14:1 and see. I just think that in the race, in traffic, on a long run where tire saving is really all that matters, 16:1 is probably going to be the play, but give it a shot. See if you get decent tire wear. If you don't wear out the right front with 14:1, then, give that a go. The big thing is going to be the steering offset. Oh my God, they got this thing cranked way over here. I don't know why. If you want basically a level steering wheel when you're going down the straightaway, put that offset to about -14, somewhere around there. Should get you close. You can fine tune it as you want to. More negative puts it over to the left, more positive puts it over to the right. I've got it at -14, and it's almost dead nuts level. Brake bias is another big thing when the setup is tight. You want to drop that brake bias, especially in the Arca car. It helps rotate the car on corner entry without using the tires too much. More rear brake rotates the car on corner entry, takes some of the load off the tires. I've got it at 62%. I think default's like 68. It's way too high. You don't need 68%. You put that thing down to 62, 63, somewhere around there. Play with it. You can even try running lower if you really want to. Go as low as you can control it. You're not going to use a whole lot of brakes around here. So that's really what I'm recommending to you. 16-1, negative 14 offset, 62% brake bias. That's pretty much where I'm going to start with my testing. All right, let's take a look at the racetrack here. If you've never been to Charlotte Motor Speedway, you're a liar. We've all been here. Back in the days of rookie street stocks, we all had to run Charlotte. So this should be a little familiar to you, but you may not have seen it since rookie street stocks if you just got your D license and are just starting Arca. This might be your first time back to the Beast of the Southeast. That's what they used to call this track. Might be your first trip back since then. Great racetrack. A little more challenging than it looks. And again, on cold tires, the rear end will come around if you're aggressive on throttle on your corner exit here. But a little more challenging than it appears. There's two ways to really go about this track, I think. One is you just sort of ride in that groove right in the middle, and it gives you flexibility. The other is you just pin this sucker right on the blue line, but don't touch it, because it'll spin you out. If you touch that apron, it'll spin you out. So if you're doing 16-1, you might be able to get away with a little bit higher line, but I wouldn't push it too far. Around the bottom is generally the fastest way around here. And it's got enough grip to sustain only checking out the throttle a little bit on entry. I look for this white line right there. Going into 3 is my brake point. A little bit of brake pressure just to help the car get to the bottom, and then you drive it out to the wall on exit. Of course, if you're in traffic, how you play this is a little bit different than if you're just by yourself. But as far as I remember, and as long as I've been doing Arca at Charlotte, being on the bottom is the best way to go. Turns 3 and 4 are a lot more narrow than people realize if they haven't raced at this track a lot. It's a lot more narrow. You got to cut a lot more speed, especially if you're trying to pass somebody down low. If you're entering on the bottom into 3, you got to cut a lot more speed. Otherwise, you're just going to plow right up the track and hit them and probably wreck them, maybe wreck yourself. You got to cut a lot of speed in this at this end of the racetrack. But if you're by yourself, you can take a little bit higher entry, pull this car to the bottom, and give yourself a nice clean exit. But overall, the car's pretty neutral. It feels a bit snug. People are going to overdrive it. They're going to burn off the right front. And they're going to run like crap later in the run. And that's when you're going to pounce, and you're going to pass them. It's going to be easy. Easy I-rating gains this week, boys and girls. Easy I-rating gains this week. So that was about a 10-lap run or so, and you can see the tire wear is even. That's a great sign. That's actually really positive. 97, 97, 98's on the left. That's why the car feels pretty balanced. It feels good, if not a little bit on the snug side, but it wears the tires evenly if you drive it right. Going up to a 16-1 ratio, dropping that rear brake bias, or dropping the brake bias to the rear of the car, all helps accomplish this type of tire wear, but also not treating the throttle pedal like a light switch. I made a video on this, my tips and tricks for tire model version 7. I'm going to put a link to that video in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you've never watched my video on the tire model and how to improve your tire wear, do yourself a favor and go watch that video. It's by far the most popular video I ever made, but it's one of the most important and one of the most helpful that I've made as well. And all of that really rings true here. But treating that throttle pedal not just like a light switch, but using the brakes to help slow the car into the corners, not just lifting off the throttle and coasting in, getting out of the throttle, applying some light brake pressure, 10, 15% like I was doing there, to help rotate the car, cut speed without putting extra load on the tires. This is excellent tire wear. Will it be like this throughout the whole run? No, of course not. That's unrealistic to expect that. But 10 laps into a run, I'm pretty happy with that. Granted, I'm by myself, perfect conditions, nobody around me, but it comes down to a good practice routine. If you're not practicing effectively, you're not helping yourself at all. So think about your own practice routine. If you're just jumping into these races and you don't know why you're not doing well, I think you need to reevaluate your practice routine. If you set up some time at the front of the week to just do some practice laps like I'm doing, set up, in a test race and in the beta UI, and set up your own server and just log laps, you might find that you get some better results. For qualifying, I am going to try a 14-to-1 steering ratio and see if that's better for just a hot lap. I think it will be, because we don't have to worry about tire wear. I think 14-to-1 will be better for a hot lap, so that's what I'm going to try out. Let's see if see if I'm right, see if it works. .570. I think I got a little more time left in it, but that's pretty good. Something I did last week that y'all really seemed to like was just walking through the qualifying lap after the fact from an external point of view. So let's take a look at it, break it down, and I'll show you what I did, how I did it, what the inputs look like. You can see the input. Yeah, right there. You can see the inputs for my brake and my throttle as well. Of what I was doing with the pedals. So let's take a look at this thing. Coming to start the money lap, I found that doing this on lap 2 was better than lap 1. The tires were up to temperature. Use the high side up top and get a good run to get all the speed you can down the front straightaway. Clip the dog leg both times as best you can. Now this is where it gets big right here. Coming out of this dog leg, the second dog leg, you want to try and make this as straight as possible. You don't want to turn the steering wheel a whole lot on the second one because it's just going to scrub speed. You don't need to do that. You try and make this as straight of a run through here as you can. We'll get rid of this. Try and make this as straight a run as you can and point that right front for that red box right there. That Coca-Cola sign. Point the right front for that. You want to be flush against the wall by the time you get to that red Coca-Cola box to set up for turn 1. You see, right, not too long after I get to that Coca-Cola sign, I'm already starting to turn away from the wall to get in over that crest and get the car down to the bottom. I'm still full throttle. I'm still full throttle at this point while doing a little bit of turn. But again, this crest will turn the car. Then I crack the throttle right there. So I crack the throttle just a little bit past that Bank of America logo. But I'm basically full throttle right to it, right? Right? Crack the throttle a little bit out of it just to let the car cut a little bit of speed. Keep turning it to the bottom. And then get back to the throttle and hammer it. Basically, just hammer it as you pull down to that blue line. Okay? We're full throttle all the way through this corner. And again, you want to aim for the red Coca-Cola box right there on corner exit. That's your target for how you know you get out of this corner well. I think I was a little bit high coming out of 2. I think I was a little bit higher up the track than I really wanted to be. But it held. They added some grip up there, so it stuck. It was a little close. We were waggling the rear end just a little bit, but so that's turns 1 and 2. Now for 3 and 4, a little bit trickier on this one. You want to start up against the wall here. You don't want to take a shallow entry. You don't want to be down here. You want to take a higher up entry. And as you get to this Charlotte, USA logo, you're already going to be turning the wheel a little bit. But notice, when I get to this white line, I'm still up above this dash right here. That's how high up I am on this entry. By the time I get to this caution light, like I said, this line is sort of my breaking point in race conditions. And it's not too far after that I'm letting out of the throttle just a little bit to start letting that car cut some speed. A lot of steering wheel to get this car down to the bottom of the track. And then pick up the throttle. Let's see, where did I pick up the throttle? I picked up the throttle. Where are we? Just past this green Cup Series sign. Right there. That's about where I pick up the throttle. Not a whole lot. Okay, I guess I got into it a little bit and then I backed out of it. Because I thought I was going to push up the... I thought I was going to push on exit. Thought I was going to get tight. So I kind of checked up a little bit. I was a little high up on the track. This is a little too high right here. I can be about a foot lower. Get those left sides right to that white line to the right of the blue line. Not the other side because it'll loop the car. But yeah, trust the car on exit, and you're pointing for this Cup Series sign on exit right here. Now point for that sign with the right front, good exit, and then cut this dog leg as much as you can. I didn't even cut it that much, but there you go. 30.570. I feel like that's going to be a pretty solid lap. That should be putting you towards the top of the leaderboard in qualifying if you get into Arca this week at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think this is a great combination. I really like the way the car feels. It's seemingly pretty balanced as long as you make the right adjustments to it. And I did go with that 14-to-1 steering ratio for qualifying. I think that's the right way to go. Leave everything else the same, but, you know, consider bumping up the steering ratio to 16 when you jump into the race. But I think Arca at Charlotte is, if you can survive whatever might happen on lap 1, if you're in a good lobby, I think this is a great opportunity to get out there and gain some I rating back, especially after Southern National Motorsports Park last week. I did one of those. That was that was actually rather underwhelming. But if you can put together a good race here, this is a good building block for doing things like C fixed, B fixed, A fixed when they go to 1.5 mile tracks like this. The things that you learn and the techniques that you put into play with the Arca car at Charlotte are exactly what you're going to do in the top 3 NASCAR series when they come to 1.5 miles as well, especially if the setup is much like this. So get out there, do some practice, and then run these Arca races. But, you know, I think this is a good combination this week. I'm good with it. See, the closer you keep that thing to the bottom, the better your lap time is going to be. Honestly, the easier it's going to be on your tires. Slight lift of the throttle. There's a little hill, a little crest going into turn 1. You got to be careful with that. It's easy to upset the balance of the car if you don't do that crest correctly. You can kick the car out sideways or overdrive it and run up the hill. If you hit that crest just right, it'll actually help turn the car for you. So as you set up here coming out of the dog leg, we hit that crest and then we drop into the banking. You don't really want to be on the gas while you're going over that crest. It's sort of a good indicator of when you should be off the gas, trail braking just a little bit to get the car to the bottom. You can see I'm not using a lot of brake. Just enough to set the nose, get the car to the bottom, and finish out the lap. You can be aggressive with the throttle once the car is settled into the banking. Just like that. You can stay in the throttle, not really a big deal. It seemingly handles just fine. So that's yeah, that's a look at Charlotte. Welcome to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, home to C Fixed this week, and I am a bit perplexed as to what I've been experiencing here. This setup likes to bottom out quite a bit around this racetrack. This is a rough and tumble little short track, but this truck is not getting over the bumps too nicely. I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong or the setup's goofy or some combination of the two, but I'm having a hell of a time trying to get this thing up to speed. So let's hit the track and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I dropped the steering ratio down to 10-1. By default, it's 12-1, and it feels like it's just too slow. Too slow to react, too slow to respond. So I dropped it down to 10. I didn't touch the offset. Brake bias, I think, by stock is 62.5. I actually bumped it up to 64 just to play around with it and see. You know, you can leave it at default and just let it rip and see how you do. But steering ratio is the big thing that I'm going to push this week. Adjusting it down to 10-1 might help you get away. If you jump in and it feels like the truck won't turn, it's not responsive, you can't get into the corner, you can't slow down and turn, try dropping the ratio into 10-1, see how it works. But with that, let's hit the track and see what it looks like from C Fixed. All right, here in the Advanced GG Chevy Silverado, kind of steep banking for a short track. If you've never seen Nashville Fairgrounds before, this is a great racetrack. I really like this track. It's very fun. We've hosted a variety of cars here when I do hosted races. It's pretty fun little track. But now in C Fixed, you'll get an appreciation for this thing. The first half of the turn is smooth, and then you get to the center of the corner, and the exit of the corner, it just bottoms out. Here, listen. You see the truck moving around like that? Here, listen down here. Pacow, pacow, pacow. You hear that? It's, yeah, bottoms out really bad. The bottom of this track is very rough. A lot of bumps. And so you're almost better served moving up a half a lane or a lane above this seam right around here, waiting on throttle and then pulling it to the bottom to drive it off. Letting the banking do the work and steer the truck to the bottom. But it's tough. If you catch one of those bumps the wrong way and this thing bottoms out, it's just going to shoot you up the track and you're not going to have a very good time. So for that reason, I think actually entering a little bit higher and pulling it to the bottom on exit is probably the better play. It keeps you off those bumps, keeps you in the throttle, keeps the truck rotating. I kind of like that. I don't like that. That was about a, what was that? About a 15 lap run or so. Let's see what the tires look like. So the right front is smoked, and I'm going to guess that that's a combination of overdriving the entry and then doing too much arc in the center of the corner to pull it to the bottom. Maybe it's just, you know, the nature of the setup is you're just going to burn the right front. Maybe it's because I'm using 10-1 steering ratio. There's a number of things it can be. You know, I think you can safely drop the brake bias down. With speeds that we have here at Nashville Fairgrounds, I think 64 is probably too much. I don't think you need that much. So, you know, you can try default 62.5, but it might just be one of those weeks where you're going to wear the right front a little bit just because there's really not a lot else you can do. You have to stay off those bumps at the bottom. The only way to do that is to be further up the track, which means you have to turn the wheel more. If you try to ride the bottom, the bumps just send you up the track anyways. Strange. Very strange. I'm going to try to hot lap this thing. This is what I'm going to use. 10-1, default steering offset, 62% brake bias. I'll start with this and see if this is the way to get a fast lap time. Let's find out. 19.057. Optimal is a 19.017. It's a pretty good lap right there. That felt good. Let's take a look at that qualifying lap from the outside. Do another analysis breakdown of it here. So coming to take the green flag, just like we always do, sail it off on the high side, pull it to the bottom, and get a good run off the top side of the racetrack, all the way up there, pull it to the bottom, stand on it. Now, setting up for turn 1. Back this thing up a little bit. Where did I get to the brakes? Where did I lift off? Kind of hard to say because there's really no visual marker right here. A lot of it is by feel, but a lot of racing is by feel. So it's like, well, all right, David, where are what am I supposed to be looking at? Where do I hit the damn brakes? Where do I lift off the throttle? I hear you. A lot of it's going to come with repetition. I've turned so many laps trying to get that lap that that's part of practice, is you have to do this 15, 20 times to really start getting good at it. So it just comes with feel. But in a relative sense, you can say that I'm, 3-4 truck lengths before this dashed, the start of this dashed line. That's kind of a good visual marker right there. Conversely, if we pan this thing out, you can say that it's, near the end of the Big Machine Vodka banner on the inside of the front wall. That's a little bit harder to see from the cockpit. So, again, a lot of it's just by sight, but you can also do it by sound. And so if you listen closely, and I'm going to turn the gain up, you can hear me hit the chip, the rev chip as well. So I hit that rev chip just for a hair, just for a little bit. I hit that rev chip and then I'm out of it. I'm lifting off of it. I'm getting ready to go into turn 1. So that's the deal there. Into turn 1 we go. And your line here, you want the right side tires to just sort of clip the start of these dash lines. That's how you know you're on the right trajectory right there. Right side tires pass over those dashed lines. Sail it in here, just riding the brakes, 10-15%. Left side tires right around this seam. Let it drift up a little bit. A little bit of throttle, a lot more throttle, a lot of steering wheel to keep this thing off those bumps at the very bottom. You want to stay off those bumps, but you can see I'm able to get back to the throttle and it sticks. Now, how you play with the throttle and how you use the throttle is going to make or break your lap. So you see my arc into this turn. I'm below that seam. Then I'm going up above the seam to the dashed lines, straddling the dashed lines. Left side tires damn near on the dashed lines, then coming back across it. Back across the dashed lines, left side tires to the seam. Right side tires to the seam just briefly as I'm already full throttle and exiting the turn. So really, this seam and these dashed lines are your best friends for how you navigate turns 1 and 2. As we exit turn 2, nice, smooth, straight exit all the way out to the wall. No big deal there. Setting up for turn 3. Where do I get out of the gas? Where do I get to the brakes? Right there. So where is this? This is just past the War Shocks and Suspension sign. There's 2 available for sponsorship signs, so it's like right before the second one, right after the War Shock sign. Somewhere around there is where you really want to start getting to the brakes and turn it into turn 3. Again, a little bit of brake pressure, not a whole heck of a lot. It's not a lot of brake pressure, just enough to get it to slow down and rotate. Right side tires underneath the start of the dash lines there. Ride this thing in, riding the brakes. Left side tires down to the seam. Still on the brakes. Off the brakes. Truck rides up a little bit. Still riding the brakes a little bit to get it to turn, set the nose again. Straddling that dashed white line, then back to the gas. About 75-80%. Pulling the truck back down to the seam, straddling the seam. Right side tires almost on the seam. Full throttle all the way out to the wall. So not as much, you're not letting the truck ride up as high in 3 and 4 as you do in 1 and 2 with regards to the dash line. but you're still following the seam all the way through. The seam is still very much an important part of how you get around here. And you can see I'm full throttle. Well before this white line, full throttle. If you get that angle right and you stay off those bumps just right, you have grip and you're digging. And that's how you put down a fast lap. But again, it may take you 20 times, 30 times, 40 times of trying this to get that lap time, or to even get close to that lap time. But don't worry. If you can't hit my lap time, don't worry. It's not about mirroring what I do. It's about understanding the mechanics, understanding the line, the technique. You might be running 19 threes. So if you watch this and you emulate this, and then all of a sudden you go from running 19 threes to 19 twos, that's a pretty big pickup. A tenth of a second's no joke around here. That's like that. That's nothing. You pick up that little bit, that little bit, that little bit, and you go out and do it again. You go out and do it again. But that's a hot lap here at Nashville Fairgrounds. And that'll do it for this episode of Fix Setup Weekly. Thanks so much for checking it out. I hope that you found this to be helpful and informative. If it was, make sure to let me know. Leave a thumbs up on the video and a comment down below. I love seeing what you guys have to say. Let me know what you're going to be getting into this week, what you're going to be staying far, far away from, and what you're looking forward to seeing in the future. I know we haven't had exactly the most content to talk about the past few weeks, but we are getting away from road courses. Everything will be back to ovals again, and I can start covering A fixed, B fixed in their entirety, and I can't wait to do that. I hope you're excited about next week's episode. Should be a great one. And speaking of, to make sure you don't miss it, hit that subscribe button right now. I'd love to see you around more often. And if you're part of the community, you're an OG or even a channel member, thank you so very much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it a lot. If you want to get in touch with me, stay up to date with the things that I'm up to on a daily basis, or get my opinions on things going on in sim racing or the real world, follow me on Twitter. That's linked down in the description below. And you can also follow my iRacing adventures when I stream them live over on my Twitch channel. That's linked down in the description below as well. Thanks so much for watching this episode, and have a great week of racing.